Hi friends, welcome to and welcome back to the channel Jane Reads. My name is Jeanette and today I am doing a battle of the books for the first half of the year from January 2026 to June 2026 and putting all the books I've read against each other to find out what is my favorite from the first half of the year. So I have 74 books in here. I saw Taylor from Tales with Tay do a battle of the books for a couple years. She's done a couple of videos recently. And I love that idea. And I'm curious if the book that I pick for the, that is the best book of the year, would it be the same book that wins best book of the year in my head or when I do a book bracket thing? So I'm very curious. But I could not do it for the full year knowing that I'm going to read over 100 books. I've already read 74 in the first half. So if the next half goes anywhere similar, even half, it would still be over 100 books. So I'm like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the first half of the year, one of these. Then I will do the second half of the year. So then I've got my two favorite books for the year. Then at the end of the year, technically in January, I will do my book bracket that I did last year at the end of the year and see what's the favorite book and do they agree? So we'll see, because that one is based on like 5-star books, like your favorite book of each month, kind of pit against each other, whereas this is all the books and they're pit randomly because you draw two and then whichever one's the winner, go to the next one until you only have one left. So we will see. So I do expect this to be a fairly long video. I mean, a lot of mine are. So get a drink. I have some iced coffee from McDonald's that my husband picked up for me today. So I'm going to have this to keep my voice from going dry. And let's just start. So I have moved off my little stuffy that normally sits here so I can put kind of the winners here. And then I just have a table over here to put the losers for that round. I guess that's what you're going to call them. Okay, so I have pieces of paper with every book title and author on here because in the past, I have read a couple books with the same title, but by different authors. So I'm like, I don't want to get them mixed up. So I did include the author's name on here. And then my husband so nicely folded each one of the sheets and put them in here for me. And I thought, well, in here, I can shake them and let's just start. So the first two books are going to be Blue Skies Tomorrow by Sarah Sundin. I should say, this is a reread, but I should say I haven't decided how I'm going to handle rereads yet because I don't think a reread should be the winner because that's not like my favorite book of the year because I reread it because I enjoyed it. So we'll see what happens. I think it depends what they go against, whether they will move on to the next round or not. Okay, then we have Wired Love by Ella Xavier Thayer. So this I read way back. I think both of these I read in January, actually. I'm pretty sure Blue Skies Tomorrow is book 2, book 3. Yeah, right? You can't see it. It's up there. So Blue Skies Tomorrow was a 5-star reread for me. And because Wired Love, I think, was a 4-star, but I was kind of annoyed with some of the characters. So I'm going to put Blue Skies Tomorrow as the winner for this round because when I initially read this, I gave it 4 stars. And when I reread it this year, I gave it 5 stars. I just love the character so much more. So that's the one that's going to move on. The other one's going to go. Okay, the next two. Oops. As they fall into my lap or the floor. Okay, we have 2. So the first one is Because of You by Becky Wade. This is a Christmas novella, part of the Bradford Sisters collection, I want to say. I don't own it. I don't know why I looked at my shelves because I don't own it. And then we have A Memory Between Us by Sarah Sundin. So both of these were actually rereads, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure they were both rereads. That is funny. A Memory Between Us is historical romance, a book 2 in the Wings of Glory series. Is that what the series is called? Yes, it is. Wow. Not off to a great start here. I'm going to pick A Memory Between Us because I love Sarah Sundin's writing, historical fiction, and I'm not a huge novella fan, so that's easy. Okay, the next two, I got two right away, are Whiteout. I've had multiple authors. So this is Danny Petrie and Lynette Eason. This is a romantic suspense, 2 novellas. Just came out, I want to say February, and they're both, like, in both stories, they're like storm stayed because of avalanche. And then we have Change of Heart by Courtney Walsh. So this is book 2 in the Paper Hearts series. This one was a reread, is a contemporary romance. I did not enjoy this as much the second time around than I did the first time. So the clear winner on this one is Whiteout. Okay, next 2 is Captured in Frame by Laura Thomas. This is a romantic suspense set in England. I really enjoyed that one. And then we've got Lakeshore Wandering by Jennifer Rodwell. This is a contemporary romance. Lakeshore Wandering. There's 2 books I've read in this series. I don't think is Wandering book 1 or book 2? I think Wandering is book 1. I'll have to put here underneath the cover, because both covers will be here. I will put which book in the series it is. If it's book 1, wow. I think it is book 1. I really enjoyed the banter between the characters and really laughed a lot, but the ending left it hanging, but knowing that it's a series that continues. So either way though, Captured in Frame by Laura Thomas is definitely the winner for this round because that was a 5-star read. I absolutely loved it. Can't wait to continue that series. Again, it is a book 1 as well. Okay, next 2. So we have Indigo Isle by T.I. Lowe. This was kind of a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I think I read it in February for Taylor's February retelling, I'm pretty sure. Maybe I read it in January. I don't know. Yeah, I liked parts of it. I did not like other parts of it. Then we have In Spotlight and Shadow by Rachel Scott McDaniel. This is part of the Doors to the Past series. I buddy read this with Alma, I'm pretty sure. And I think this is the one that they're on Mackinac Island. I want to say that's that one. Wow. I want to say. It is not clear in my memory. I can picture the cover for sure, but that's definitely going to be the winner over T.I. Lowe because the Indigo Isle was not a favorite for me at all. Okay, next 2. We have Flashover by Dana Mentic. This is a love-inspired suspense book. This was a reread for me, but I did not remember anything from it the first time around, and I really enjoyed it. There were parts that I wasn't really sure about, but yeah. So the next one is Paper Hearts by Courtney Walsh. This also, that's funny, again, 2 rereads against each other. This is book 1 in the Paper Hearts series set in Colorado, where we're learning the story about a couple that wrote love notes to each other on paper hearts and just random things of things they thought of that day that they loved about that person. It was really interesting, but it wasn't as good the second time around as it was the first time around. I found some issues with it. So we're going to go with Flashover by Dana Mentic. Next 2. Give me 1. Okay. We have When the Day Comes by Gabrielle Meyer. Yeah, I had some issues with that one too. And then we have Harbor Point by Irene Hannon. Oh, that's hilarious because I read these guys like in the same month for sure. I just read both of these. Harbor Point is book 12 in the Hope Harbor series. It's a contemporary romance. I definitely loved it much better than When the Day Comes, and that's all I'm going to say about that book. I didn't hate it, but yeah. I love returning to Hope Harbor and just the banter of the character, like the community members and how they support. And then we find new characters to fall for. I really enjoyed it. And I loved that we're following a married couple as one of the storylines. Okay, next two. We have The Story People by Heather Kaufman and A Change of Heart by Madison Carlin. Okay, so A Change of Heart by Madison Carlin is a fairy tale retelling, really set in a fantasy world. Not a fan of it. I didn't understand some of it and why the characters are even together, like interacting together. And then The Story People, we have a guy who has inherited a bookstore and he's trying to decide what's next. Like, does he keep the bookstore running even though it's, being hard the last couple of years, or does he sell it and move on? And then we have community members who are trying to set him up with somebody so that he does not sell it. And their antics were really hilarious. I really enjoyed it. And it's really kind of two stories in one. Like, you're kind of given a second story because there's also, at the beginning of every chapter, there's a little story that kind of follows throughout the whole book. But yeah. Okay. Next two, we've got Lakeshore Return by Jennifer Rodwell. So I'm pretty sure Wandering was book 1 and Return is book 2. This is a contemporary romance. I don't even know what the series is called offhand. I didn't enjoy Return at all. Then we have The Bitter End Birding Society by Amanda Cox. That's the clear winner. Clear winner. I really enjoyed that book. I know, I didn't even tell you anything about it, but that's okay. Okay, next two, we've got What I Promise You by Liz Tolsma and The Golden Filly Collection 1 by Lorianne Snelling. Okay, so The Golden Filly Collection 1 is kind of a middle grade young adult series. Collection is 5 books in one, and I really enjoy this series, and it had some hard stuff that it dealt with for a 16-year-old character to be the main character. And I'm pretty sure this is a series I read when I was younger and kind of revisiting, and I didn't remember a lot about it, but yeah, I really enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would actually. And What I Promise You by Liz Tolsma is book 2 of the Echoes of the Past series. I just read this in June. And I didn't love it as much as I loved book 1, but I still enjoyed the story. I really connected with Corrine? No. Yeah, I think so. No, maybe it was Caitlin. It was a C name anyways. But I really connect with her in the present day timeline more than the historical timeline, which is unusual for me. But either way, it's going to be Golden Filly because that just stuck with me so much more. Okay, next two, only two. We have Witness Protection by Robert Whitlow. This is a new release. I think it came out in April. We're witness protection. We're following somebody that is in witness protection and then gets involved into a case when one of his employees gets arrested for the possibility of smuggling drugs. And he's trying to help without blowing his cover. And then it's possible that the reason he went into witness protection is connected with the case, like people. And so what's going to happen? I really enjoyed it. Then we have Murder on the Moor by Juliana Deering. This is book 5, I think. Book 5? 1, 2, yes. In the Drew Farthering mystery series. And we follow Drew, Madeline, and Nick, who go to the moors to help a friend out that is kind of experiencing some weird stuff. And trying to figure out what's going on. I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it because Nick just wasn't in it enough for me. So it's going to go to Witness Protection for this round. Next two is Remember Me by Mario Escobar. I buddy read this with Alma, Heather, and Catherine for Alma's challenge. Was that the month of May, maybe? I think so. It's a Spanish Civil War story where some kids get sent from Spain to Mexico. It was very depressing read. Nothing ever good happened for the kids. Yeah. Then we have Yukon Wilderness Evidence by Darlene L. Turner. This is a love-inspired suspense book. Set in Yukon, we are following two characters that reconnect, and one has to share a secret with the other. They've been trying to find them to reveal the secret, but they haven't been able to find them. Meanwhile, we've got some bad guys after them while they're trying to do their jobs and kept them on their toes for sure. Yukon Wilderness Evidence is definitely the winner. Next two, A Distant Melody by Sarah Sundin. So that is book one of the Blue Skies Tomorrow series. It is a reread for me, or was a reread for me. Then we have Wyoming Wilderness Survival by Jill Elizabeth Nelson. This is another love-inspired suspense book set in Wyoming. And this one starts so uniquely. We are following a character who is in jail at the very beginning of the story. And then, things just keep happening. And I was like, what? So is this character that we're following a good character? Or are they in jail for a reason? Are they there for the wrong reason? Or are they for the right reason? This was so interesting. And because, this is a reread, this is a new read, I'm going to pick Wyoming Wilderness Survival as the winner for this round because I just love the uniqueness of it, the start. Okay, next two. We've got Christmas Captive by Liz Johnson. This is another love-inspired suspense book. It is, I want to say, book 6 in this series, Christmas Captive. I think this is the one that takes place on the cruise ship, I think. It's Men of Valor series. Yeah. Wow. Then we have Dark of Night by Colleen Coble. This is another romantic suspense. This is book 2 in the Annie Pedersen series. Wow. Huh. See, Christmas Captive, if this is the cruise ship one, which I'm pretty sure it is, there were things about it I really enjoyed and kept me guessing, but then there were other things that I don't know about that. And Dark of Night, what happens in Dark of Night? We're pick up from book 1, but what's the actual case? I can remember parts of it, but not lots of it. How do I choose then? Do I pick Christmas Captive because it's the one I remember more about, even though it wasn't a favorite? Or do I pick Dark of Night, but yet I can't remember? I feel like I have to pick Christmas Captive because I remember more about the story, even if I didn't love it. Wow, that's weird. I'm hoping I've left enough room for the book covers here. Okay, next two. So there's 1, 2. Okay, so one is A Cry from the Dust by Carrie Stewart Parks. Another suspense book following kind of getting answers possibly for the Mormon massacre. Maybe, not really. Following a forensic artist. And there was a lot of research, a lot of detail, a lot of characters in that one. Then we have The Sheriff's Surrender by Susan Page Davis. These are both books I read in June. June? Did I read Cry of Dust in June? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yes, I did. Yeah. They're both books I read in June. The Sheriff's Surrender is historical, romance, a little bit of a mystery. I'm going to go with A Cry from the Dust. Even though there was things that I didn't like about the story, I really enjoyed the characters, especially the best friend relationship. And the best friend I loved. Okay, the next two. Protecting Her Daughter by Lynette Eason. This is another love-inspired suspense books. Wow, I've read a lot of them this year. This is part of the Wrangler's Corner series. And then we have Fallout by Carrie Stewart Parks. Fallout is another suspense with the vehicle crashing into the portable school classroom. Oh, there were things I didn't like about it, but kept me guessing. Protecting Her Daughter is the one with the... Nope, that's not that one. Wrangler's Corners, The Vet. Yeah. Protecting Her Daughter, for sure. Okay, next two. This is going to be forever. Okay. Under the Tulip Tree by Michelle Shockley. This is historical fiction. Nashville, Tennessee. We're following a young woman during the Depression era who goes to interview a 101-year-old lady who was a slave, and we get her story of growing up in slavery and then being freed. And then we have Following the Trail by Lynette Eason. This is another love-inspired suspense book. And honestly, I can't tell you a whole lot about it because these start to blur together after a while. So we're going to go with Under the Tulip Tree. Next two. We've got Evidence of Mercy by Terry Blackstock. This is book 1 of the Suncoast Chronicles series. I'm pretty sure. Yes, this is the plane crash one, right? I'm pretty sure. Then we have Meant to Be Mine by Becky Wade. Oh, this is a contemporary romance series. This is book 2 in the Porter family series. They are both rereads for me, but one is a suspense, one is a contemporary romance. But I have to say, they were both 5-star reads for me this year, but Meant to Be Mine, definitely. Okay, next two. In Love's Time by Kate Breslin. Historical fiction set during World War I, I'm pretty sure, in London, England. And we are following a couple that is in love, and then one of them gets amnesia, and then it's like, can they fall in love the second time? And then there's somebody else that's trying to make sure it does not happen. Then we have Last to Fall by Lynn H. Blackburn. This is a romantic suspense. It's book 3 in the Gossamer Falls series. It is a new release. I want to say it came out in March. This is Grayson and Bronwyn's story. Is it? Those names don't sound right to me. But either way, I love this one. And I love how it was funny, but it was entertaining how they communicated to each other without talking to each other because of something that happened in the past. They refused to speak to each other, to be like the first one to speak. So they don't. So they kind of talk to each other through a bunch of other people. Kind of immature, but also really funny how they did it. Okay, the next two. For Such a Time by Kate Breslin, another historical fiction set around World War I. We are following a Jewish lady who has changed her name and begins working as a secretary to a Nazi officer who doesn't know that she is actually Jewish, and she is using her position to try to save some of the Jews from being sent to the concentration camps. Yeah, just really interesting. I loved the character's story and stuff. I didn't enjoy the romance that happened in the book. Then we have Taming Lady Temperance by Karen Wittemeyer. This is book 1 of the Secret Society of Sisters. Secret Spinsters, maybe? I think is what the series is called. This book came out in February, I want to say. I buddy read this with my co-host from the Read Happy Readathon in April. And we absolutely love this book. This was a 5-star read. So Taming Lady Temperance is definitely the winner in this one. I absolutely loved it. Next two. is What I Would Tell You by Liz Tolsma. This is book 1 of the Echoes of the Past series, another dual timeline story. This one was set in Greece, which was really interesting to me. Then we have Above the Fold by Rachel Scott McDaniel. Another historical fiction story about two characters kind of reconnecting when kind of misunderstandings happen. But either way, What I Would Tell You was my 5-star read out of the two of them. And I absolutely love that story. 2 here? Yes, I do. Okay. Lake Bride by Shanna Hatfield. This is book 5 in the Holiday Brides series. This is a contemporary romance series. We are following a guy who has just retired from the Army, I want to say. Navy, maybe? Maybe it was the Navy. I don't know. And he comes to Holiday, Oregon, kind of what is next for him. He goes to his uncle's property that he inherited and starts fixing it up. And then meets somebody who works at the retirement center that a lot of the seniors from previous books live at. And it's just a fun romance story, sweet, takes place over the summer. Then we have Appalachian Song by Michelle Shockley. Historical fiction, dual timeline, set just outside the Great Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. And we are following a midwife character who takes in a young pregnant woman and what happens there. And then in the second timeline, we are following another midwife character who is working with somebody to try to find out their history and where they came from because they were adopted. Really emotional story, really touching. There were parts I really enjoyed and other parts I just didn't really care for, but that is definitely the winner between the two. Next 2. Canyon of Deceit by Diane Mills. It is a romantic suspense story set in a canyon. Honestly, I don't remember a ton about it. Some bad guys are chasing them. I don't remember how they get involved in the case. Yeah. And then we have Rescue Mission by Lynette Eason. This is a love-inspired suspense book. Somebody's on a mission to rescue somebody. Again, I don't remember a lot about it. Wow. I think it's also kind of a canyon setting though. But either way, I remember not liking Canyon of Deceit. It was way too long for the story and too convoluted in some ways because that's the one with the professor. Because they're looking for somebody who's being kidnapped and Rescue Mission. But it's going to be moved on because it is. Okay, 2 more. Raging Waters by Dana Mentic. Another romantic suspense story. This is book 2 in the Elements of Danger series. This one is a relatively new release, like this year for sure. April probably. Then we have Sweet on You by Becky Wade. This is a contemporary romance series. It is book 3 in the Bradford Sisters, and it is a reread for me, so definitely Raging Waters, even if I didn't like all the water that was in it. It was way too much time spent getting wet. Next 2. Kidnapped by Dee Henderson, romantic suspense. Few people get kidnapped, and is it connected? What really happens? Is it connected to a case that Luke is investigating? Like, a lot of stuff happens. Then we have Behind Love's Wall by Carrie Fansett Pagels. This is part of the Doors to the Past series as well, I want to say. I'm pretty sure. I wonder if the other one was a heroine's... No, it was a Behind Love's Wall. Doors to the Past series. Doors to the Past. I can totally picture the cover, but what's the story about? Yet, Kidnapped is the one that's a reread for me. Behind Love's Wall, was that Texas? Was that... Oh my gosh. I sure hope this wasn't a high rating. because it's going to have to be kidnapped because I can't tell you anything about it besides what the cover looks like. Okay, next two. Oh, that's only one. Two. Okay. While the City Sleeps by Elizabeth Camden. This is book 1. Yes. Book 1 in the Women of Midtown series, historical romance, World War II, I think. I'm pretty sure it's 2. We are following a dentist, a female dentist, and a police officer. The story. Then we have Code Trauma by Lynette Eason. This is a romantic suspense novella. It is a novella for her Extreme Measures series. Is that what the series is called? Yes. And we are following 3 best friends that work together while somebody is kind of being blackmailed in a way, traumatized. Either way, it was definitely While the City Sleeps, the historical fiction that I loved. Okay. We have Where Hope Begins by Catherine West. This is a women's fiction story that I just read in June. And then we have Mrs. Porter Calling by A.J. Pierce. This is book 4 of the Emmy Lake Chronicles series. Really enjoy this series, and this is the conclusion. And historical fiction set in London near around the end of World War II. Definitely the winner. Wow, there's a lot more left here than I thought there would be. Okay, I gotta stop telling you everything about the books. Okay, we have Danger in the Wilderness by Darlene L. Turner. This is another love-inspired suspense book. It is book 1 of the National Park Protectors series, I want to say. And then we have 84 Charing Cross Road by Helen Haniff. I read this for Epiphany January. It's about a book buyer and a bookseller who exchanged notes for a number of years from New York City to somewhere in England, as the seller in New York was trying to buy books from the book, or the buyer in New York was trying to buy books from the seller in England. Interesting story. Danger in the Wilderness is National Park, is set in a park. There's danger filled. Is that the one with the father goes missing and they're trying to find, there's a bunch of there's a serial killer on the loose and they are trying to stop them and figure out what the connection is? Pretty sure that's Danger in the Wilderness. I hope so, because it's the one I'm putting in the next round. So I'm hoping I'm remembering the right book. Okay, next 2. Tricking Christmas by Shanna Hatfield. This is a contemporary romance. It's part of the Rodeo Romance series. I couldn't tell you what number. It's either 12, 13, somewhere up there. Really fun. And then we've got The Pink Bonnet by Liz Tosma. This is part of the True Colors series, which is a suspense series, historical fiction, and really strange but true events. And this one is about Memphis, Tennessee, children's home, where the director is basically kidnapping children from the parents to sell them to other people that want to be parents. Really traumatizing story. We're following a mother who's trying to get her daughter back after her daughter's being taken. I was so invested in this. So The Pink Bonnet, definitely. Okay, then we have Dear Miss Lake by A.J. Pierce. I read this year? Huh. This is book 3 of the... Is it book 3? Or did I mix them up? Oh, I mixed them up. Oops. Oops. Dear Miss Lake is book 4 in the Emmy Lake Chronicle series. So when I had the other one earlier, it was book 3. Oops. Yeah, so this is the conclusion of World War II. Then we have Among the Innocent by Mary Alford. We are following a young lady whose family had been kidnapped when they were, or not kidnapped, had been killed when they were Amish. And she was taken in by an English family who was the sheriff for the community and raised, and then eventually became a police officer. And now 10 years later, a young Amish girl has gone missing, and the family asked for her help. And then it looks like the person who killed her family could be back. What? I absolutely loved this story. I was so invested in it and what was going on, and it totally kept me guessing. And yeah, I absolutely loved it. I wanted to make sure I had the right piece of paper. Okay. Then we have Undeniably Yours by Becky Wade, contemporary romance, book 1 in the Porter family series, where we meet Meg and Bull Porter, Meg Cole and Bull Porter. Then we have Dangerous Mountain Rescue by Christy Barrett. This is another love-inspired suspense book. Undeniably Yours was a reread. This one is a first-time read. They're on a mountain. Is this the one that the mom has gone to search for her daughter, and then because of the weather, the mom gets into trouble, and then the rescue team needs to come and help her out? Is that one? Or is that Rescue Mission? Oops. I think I'm going to go with Undeniably Yours because, again, I don't remember which plotline this one was. Okay. Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. Classic. Took me forever to read. Well, not really. It took me 2 weeks. The Lost Story of Via Bell by Melanie Dobson. Again, I read these in the same month. I read both of these in June. The Lost Story of Via Bell, my favorite of the month. That one's moving on. Obsession by Patricia Bradley. This is book 2 in the Natchez Park Ranger series. Trace Park Ranger series, maybe. Then we've got Beyond the Clouds by Elizabeth Camden. This is book 3 of the Women of Midtown series, historical fiction. Really love this story. This was my favorite book of this series. I just love the characters. They were friends for a number of years. Something happened. They disagreed. They went their separate ways, and now they have to start to work together. Then we see somebody get into trouble and how they work through that and like the strength of them. Absolutely loved it. 5-star read. Okay. Dark Prophecy by Lynette Eason. This is a romantic suspense novella. That's all I can tell you about it. Then we have I Heard the Bells. It was a novella collection with 4 novellas. Darlene L. Turner, Helen Smumrick, Melanie Stevenson, and Sarah Davison, I think is who it was. This is definitely, I Heard the Bells is what I read more recent, because I read this in June. Dark Prophecy, I couldn't tell you when I read it. And honestly, I really enjoyed a couple of the novellas in this, so Christmas is going to move on. Okay. Then we have The Trial by Robert Whitlow, legal fiction with somebody on trial. Then we have Second Impressions by Pepper Basham. This is maybe, I don't know if I'd consider it a novella. It's a contemporary romance set in Bath, England, with 2 characters from North Carolina going over to Bath. They're not from the same town. They meet in Bath. There were parts of it I really didn't like. I have a whole rant about this book. So it's going to be The Trial. Okay. Then we have When Stars Light the Sky by Elizabeth Camden. This is book 2 of the Women of Midtown series. Another historical fiction set during World War II, I think. I'm debating whether it's 1 or 2. I'm pretty sure it's 2 though. And this is set in Berlin, Germany, and kind of it becomes a marriage of convenience story, and then what happens. And then the other book is Hearts on the Fly by Tony Shiloh. This is contemporary romance, hockey theme. I had some major issues with that book, so that's gonna go. And Elizabeth Camden is going to move on. And finally, the last 2. God's Gift by Dee Henderson. This is a contemporary romance. We've got the main male character who is a missionary and is home on leave and kind of finds a group of friends, really, and then plans kind of change for him due to situation and how's he going to move forward. There were parts of it I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the friend group and how they brought him into their long-running group. Then we have Covert Cows and Chick-fil-A by Steve Robinson, a non-fiction talking about Steve Robinson's time as the chief marketing officer for Chick-fil-A. I found it interesting of how the Cows campaign started, but otherwise I was pretty bored throughout the book. There was way too much football involved in it. So it's going to be God's Gift. Oh, those were the last 2. Okay, time for a drink. Okay. Now, let me put the winners back in. Shake them up. And this round is going to go much quicker because I'm only going to tell you the titles and which one's the winner. Okay. The first 2 are going to be The Lost Story of Via Bell by Melanie Dobson and Mrs. Porter Calling by A.J. Pierce. It's going to be The Lost Story of Via Bell. What I Would Tell You by Liz Tolsma versus Beyond the Clouds by Elizabeth Camden. Ooh. They're both 5-star reads. One's a dual timeline. What I Would Tell You. I can tell you more about Beyond the Clouds, so that's the one. Rescue Mission by Lynette Eason versus The Bitter End Birding Society by Amanda Cox. Again, same thing. I can tell you more about The Bitter End than I can about Rescue Mission. Next 2. I Heard the Bells. This is the novella collection. And God's Gift by Dee Henderson. Oh, that's funny. Why these 2 against each other? See, I want to say I can tell you more about I Heard the Gift. I Heard the Bells. But I mean, I also just read this in June, so obviously I can tell you more about it right now. I think the God's Gift story was more interesting overall. 2. Kidnapped by Dee Henderson and Among the Innocent by Mary Alford. Among the Innocent, that was a 5-star. I gotta move. Okay. My leg's falling asleep. Okay, next 2. Captured in Frame by Laura Thomas versus Appalachian Song by Michelle Shockley. Wow, that was horrible. Captured in Frame, for sure. Flashover by Dana Mentic. And Last to Fall by Lynn H. Blackburn. Last to Fall. In Spotlight and Shadow by Rachel Scott McDaniel versus Witness Protection by Robert Whitlow. I think Witness Protection, because again, I can tell you more about it. Okay. Under the Tulip Tree by Michelle Shockley. And Whiteout with the Lynette Eason and Dana Mentic. No, Danny Petrie. Lynette Eason and Danny Petrie. Ooh. 2 novellas versus historical. I really loved the Frankie's story in Under the Tulip Tree and like learning about slavery and stuff, so that's going to be the one. Oh, don't go on the ground. Okay. While the City Sleeps by Elizabeth Camden versus A Memory Between Us by Sarah Sundin. So A Memory Between Us was a reread, but this was not the one. They're both historical fiction set around World War II. I think it's going to be While the City Sleeps. Taming Lady Temperance by Karen Wittemeyer, 5-star read, versus The Story People by Heather Kaufman. Taming Lady Temperance. We have The Trial by Robert Whitlow versus Wyoming Wilderness Survival by Jill Elizabeth Nelson. It's going to be the Wyoming Wilderness Survival. Okay, we have the Golden Filly Collection 1 by Lorianne Snelling. And Undeniably Yours by Becky Wade. What a matching. Wow. I think it's going to have to be Golden Filly. As much as I love the Porter family. Okay. We've got A Cry from the Dust by Carrie Stewart Parks versus When Stars Light the Sky by Elizabeth Camden. Definitely When Stars Light the Sky. Definitely. The Pink Bonnet by Liz Tolsma versus Protecting Her Daughter by Lynette Eason. The Pink Bonnet. Raging Waters by Dana Mentick versus Christmas Captive by Liz Johnson. Raging Waters. Blue Skies Tomorrow by Sarah Sundin versus Yukon Wilderness Evidence by Darlene L. Turner. Even though Blue Skies Tomorrow was a 5-star read, it was a reread, whereas Yukon Wilderness Evidence was a 4-star read, but it was new. So that's the one I'm going to keep. Okay, we now have 3 left, so I'm going to pick 2, and one's going to stay in there for the next round. Okay. We've got Meant to Be Mine by Becky Wade versus Danger in the Wilderness by Darlene L. Turner. Oh my gosh. Meant to Be Mine was a reread. This one's a new one. But this is the one that I can barely tell you what it was about. Wow. Danger in the Wilderness. I'm pretty sure that's the one with the father that gets kidnapped. I'm pretty sure. But what if I'm wrong? Okay. It's going to be the one that moves on. I sure hope I'm right. And then, as I said, the other one's staying in there. Okay, next round. Okay, round 3. Yukon Wilderness Evidence by Darlene L. Turner versus Captured in Frame by Laura Thomas. Captured in Frame. Taming Lady Temperance by Karen Wittemeyer versus When Stars Light the Sky by Elizabeth Camden. Wow. Taming Lady Temperance. Golden Filly Collection versus The Pink Bonnet by Liz Tolsma. The Pink Bonnet, for sure. Danger in the Wilderness by Darlene L. Turner versus God's Gift by Dee Henderson. Wow. I did not think God's Gift was going to make it this far. But it's the one that's going to move on because I'm not 100% sure on that Danger in the Wilderness one. God's Gift was a 3-star read for me. Okay. Wyoming Wilderness Survival by Jill Elizabeth Nelson versus Raging Waters by Dana Mentick. Wyoming Wilderness Survival, because that start just intrigued me at the beginning of the book. The Bitter End Birding Society by Amanda Cox versus Beyond the Clouds by Elizabeth Camden. Oh my gosh. These are both 5-star reads. Wow. And so different from each other. How do I choose? I really like the relationship in Beyond the Clouds. Yep, that's the one. That shocks me. Okay. The Lost Story of Via Bell by Melanie Dobson versus Among the Innocent by Mary Alford. This is when it starts to get really hard. I loved both of these, and I did not want to put either one down. I just wanted to keep reading. Oh my. I think it's going to be Among the Innocent, though. Okay. Wow. While the City Sleeps by Elizabeth Camden versus Witness Protection by Robert Whitlow. While the City Sleeps. I have an odd number again? Really? Shouldn't I have an even number now? Under the Tulip Tree by Michelle Shockley versus Harbor Point by Irene Hannon. Harbor Point. I love the repairing of the relationships in this story. And I don't understand why I have an odd number. Because I had an odd number, put them back in, I should have an even number, right? Right? Maybe not. Put those ones back in. Did I drop any, maybe? No. Okay. Harbor Point by Irene Hannon versus While the City Sleeps by Elizabeth Camden. Harbor Point. Taming Lady Temperance by Karen Whittemire versus Last to Fall by Lynn H. Blackburn. Ooh. Taming Lady Temperance. Beyond the Clouds by Elizabeth Camden versus God's Gift by Dee Henderson. Beyond the Clouds. Was a 5-star read. Captured in Frame by Laura Thomas versus Wyoming Wilderness Survival. Captured in Frame. Okay. The Pink Bonnet by Liz Tolsma versus Among the Innocent by Mary Alford. Ooh. The Pink Bonnet was only a 4-star read. Among the Innocent was a 5-star read. Kept me, yeah, Among the Innocent. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left. I know, I didn't put the lid back on. Okay. Oh, I need, I need 2. Not 3, 2. Okay. Beyond the Clouds by Elizabeth Camden versus Taming Lady Temperance by Karen Whittemire. These are both 5-star reads again. Wow. Taming Lady Temperance. That's 1, 2. Okay. Harbor Point by Irene Hannon versus Captured in Frame by Laura Thomas. Captured in Frame. And, one left. Okay, we're down to 3. Here we go. Here we go. Captured in Frame by Laura Thomas versus Taming Lady Temperance by Karen Whittemire. Ooh. Suspense versus historical. As much as I loved Captured in Frame, with the setting, is definitely Taming Lady Temperance. Okay, Taming Lady Temperance versus the last one. Who is the winner? Among the Innocent by Mary Alford. Again, suspense versus historical. Oh, could I have one suspense and one historical? That's my top 2 books of the year. I know, I said one. Tammy, Lady Temperance. Yeah. And the winner is Tammy, Lady Temperance by Karen Witemeyer. I hope this was fun for you. And now I apologize to Editing Jeanette, who has to go through and add all the book covers in multiple times. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video today. And I would love it if you would tell me what your favorite book from the first half of the year. And yes, I want you to pick one book because I've had to pick one book. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.